Good morning, funky fam and friends. How are you today on this Sunday morning? Yes. So, sorry this is 3 minutes late. Oh god, I forgot I just made that. I just burned myself. Woke up, realized that, my alarm didn't go off at 8. Also, for whatever reason, there's no alarm on my phone for 8 o'clock. I legitimately woke up at 8:58. Panicked. And then ran all the way over here. And now I can't feel my tongue. So, that has been the start of this day. But that is not the topic for today. Today's topic is Dragon Quest Monsters. The entire series. So, I'll give you a nice brief overview of exactly what Dragon Quest Monsters is. So, the original series is Dragon Warrior Monsters, which is spanned from Dragon Warrior Monsters 1 all the way up to 11. We'll probably dive into that series later on. But what Dragon Quest Monsters is a spin-off of that. Now, one of the easiest ways to describe what that game is it's similar to Pokemon. Dragon Quest Monsters, you've got 3 monsters you can have in your party. You know, you gotta fight them, you gotta catch them, you can breed them, you use them to, do different things in the environment. Actually, I think that's just one. You can trade them, but no. But in my opinion, it's a much better version of Pokemon. Because with Pokemon, you've got the same thing over and over, Here's your Pokemon. We go travel the region, beat all the gyms, take out the Elite Four, become the champion. Also, there's a bad group, take them out. Pokemon in a nutshell. Over and over and over. Dragon Quest Monsters, they're all different. And we will actually go over each of the different ones that they have released so far. So let's start with the OG, the original, the one that I started with, which would be just Dragon Warrior Monsters. Originally released on the Game Boy Color. It's also out on mobile phone and PlayStation 2. However, it's only on PS2. Oh no, it is. Well, no, it doesn't say it was released in the PlayStation 2 anywhere else other than Japan, but it was released for the Game Boy in North America in 1999. The game is legal. But, this is probably my favorite game of the entire series just because it brings back so much nostalgia. Every year, my family would go on vacation, and every year I'd be glued to my Game Boy playing this game. 12-hour car rides, traveling to, go all those hiking locations they like to go, and then I would never go because I hate going outside. But, basic story of the game for Dragon Quest Monsters is you're playing with your sister. There's an old story that says that if you're a bad boy or girl and you stay up past your bedtime, monsters will come and kidnap you. Lo and behold, a monster called Waraboo comes and kidnaps your sister and then jumps into your drawer. You're confused because, 1, that's a drawer, not a portal. 2, your sister was just stolen. So as you're freaking out, a Wadaboo shows up and is like, "Where's your sister?" And, you're mad saying, "Why'd you steal my sister?" It's like, no, you're referring to my evil twin, Waraboo. So he recruits you, and you both jump into the drawer portal, and you get transported to the Kingdom of Great Tree. And that starts your monster journey in the first game, where you travel to different dungeons, as they would be referred to, and each of those dungeons. The reason why Dragon Warrior Monsters is so replayable for me is because you're not doing the same game each time. Sure, you're most likely going to get the same monsters. You're going to breed them to get the same monsters. You're going to fight the same boss monsters. You know, you have to go through the Shrine of Starry Light Nights. I forgot what it was. Starry Night, Starry Light. You'll always have to do those, but the actual dungeons you go through are randomly generated. Now, there's only a finite number of patterns and things, but it's still random in the aspect of you don't know where the hole to go to the next floor is. The layout could still be slightly different. I mean, there's items to be collecting. But basically, the premise of the first game is you need to win the tournament because the winner of the tournament gets to make a wish, and that wish is always granted. Dragon Warrior Monsters. Easy peasy. But, like I said, it's my favorite game. I actually never beat it until just a few years ago when I was like, oh, I was never really paying too much attention to like X, Y, and Z. I don't remember what they were, but once I did, I got better. Lo and behold, when you pay attention to the correct things, you get better. Who would have thought? But yeah. Anyway, let's move on to the second game, Dragon Warrior Monsters 2, Kobe's Adventure / Terra's Adventure. Now, this game, for whatever reason, they decided to make a minor aesthetic difference, which was, in Kobe's Adventure, you play as Kobe, the brother. In Terra's Adventure, you play as Terra, the sister. Other than that, there's a couple of differences in what monsters you find. That's it. Kind of like what they did with Pokemon, with splitting up Pokemon Red and Blue, Gold and Silver. You get certain monsters in one, you get certain Pokemon in one, you get certain monsters in the other, you get certain Pokemon in the other. Basically, they did all that to just... Oh, excuse me. They just did that to make you buy things and communicate with each other and trade. But this game is also out in the Game Boy Color and PlayStation. However, it's only in PlayStation in Japan. It was released as a bundle of Dragon Warrior Monsters 1 and 2 in 2002. But the Game Boy Color version came out in 2001 in North America. Now, you might be thinking, it's like, well, how is this different than Pokemon? Pokemon, it has the same formula, follows over and over and over. You've already described something from Dragon Warrior Monsters 1 where it could be the same story over and over. And right, that's what they could have done. They could have been like, oh, this person got kidnapped. Or, oh, hey, they need you to win the Starry Night tournament. No, this game is different. This game, Terra and Kobe, or whatever you name your protagonist, so it could be Butt Munch, or it could be Fred, or George. Actually, I just named George, whoever's my rival. Anyway, you just moved to a new kingdom called the Kingdom of Greylog, which, funnily enough, if you played the first game, was the, or it could be Funky. No, you can only have 4 characters. Right, I forgot. Podcast, read what people say. Emotive Energy says, or it could be Funky. No, you can't. 4 character names in the first 2 games only. But, right. You move to the Kingdom of Greylog, which, as I was trying to say, but I think I lost track of what I was saying, is the kingdom that kidnapped your sister in the first game. Shrug. Anyway, you just moved to the kingdom of Great Log, and your family's opening up a monster farm. And so that first day, they send you off to go pick up a package from your grandma at the bank. So you go to the bank, you get it. As you're leaving the bank, the prince of the kingdom with his faithful companion, Waraboo, shows up, and they decide they want to take your package. Well, obviously a motive. Motive says then it can't be George after either then. I'm like, well, yeah, you only name your rivals George. And there is no rival. Anyway, as I said, so the prince of the kingdom, Kamea, decide to steal your package, which is, I think, a pie. They start wrestling near a well, and your food gets thrown into the well. When you get down into the well, you realize that the food somehow knocked off a plug. And because the plug is out, you just see a bunch of fireballs shooting out of that hole. Waraboo freaks out because he's like, that's the life tree's essence, and it's going to start dying now. So he jumps in to plug the hole and tells you to go hunt some monster masters and will warn people about what happened. Naturally, because it's Waraboo, nobody believes him, and they all just kind of wave you off. So, in the process, a faithful slime, which is your first companion in the first game and is your first companion in the second game, a faithful slime from the farm says, I will help you. So you go talk to the Waraboo, who's stuck in a hole the entire game. And he's like, well, I guess you'll do. And he gives you a key. So in this game, instead of going to randomized dungeons to progress through the game, you are given different keys to travel to different worlds. There are two different kinds of keys. There are magic keys, which you have to have appraised, and they give you a new name and a new location to go to. Or there are regular magic keys, in which you already know the name, and it's a static map. So to do the main story, you go through all the static maps. You do a bunch of quests for people in order to get a treasure from them, in order to plug a hole. Naturally, the hole doesn't get plugged until the very, very, very end of the game. However, each time you turn in a new item, Waraboo gives you a new ability to utilize. You know, you can float on water, you can smash rocks with your fists, you can float across the air. I think that's all of them. Anyway, no, there's more than that, but I don't remember what they are. But yeah, I mean, in the middle of all that, you know, there's still a lot of breeding. There's a ton of recruitment. There is a small little callback to the Shrine of Starry Nights, in which, you know, you fight through tournament 1v3. Well, you versus 3 people in a row to win items or keys. So that's the gist of number 2. I also really like that one because it follows this formula and why it's very close and dear to me. But after this, the way the game plays and handles changes quite drastically. So let's move on to the other Game Boy game. So this is a game I had never actually played until last year. Or was it 2 years ago? I don't really remember. But Dragon Quest Dragon Quest Monsters Caravan Heart. This was released in Japan in 2003. I found an English mod to be able to play it. So this game is significantly different. So this puts you in the shoes of young Kiefer, who's from Dragon Quest VII. Though technically the first Dragon Quest Monsters game, the character is Terry from Dragon Quest VI. Yada yada yada. Anyway, so the story of this one is Kiefer upsets his father, who is the king of Granistard, and then runs to his room in hope to escape punishment. He hides inside of his closet when he hears someone call out to him, and wanders out to an odd silence, and the fact that there is a traveler's gate in his room. Once inside, he finds himself transported to the world of Dragon Quest II, and assumes the role of a caravan leader in order to help a boy find a cure for his sick parents. So, Caravan Heart was a much weirder game. So, in this, you're traveling by caravan to different areas. Every step you take reduces the amount of food you have as a whole. So you're traveling around, trying to advance in the game, trying to grind up your levels, and you're losing food. So, you can only be out for so long before you have to return to home base and buy more food in order to proceed. And obviously, the more people you have, the more food you use per step, yada yada. So you start with one wagon, which means you get one monster in your team. Holy crap! That surprised the hell out of me, and will probably surprise anybody who is watching. But that was a sub from Blastastics. Anyway. Yes, emotive. I died as well. As I said, so you've got your caravan of wagons. You start with one wagon, so you have one monster. So yes, you did, Blast. You bought a 3-month thing back in January. So anyway, so like I said, so the deal with the caravan situation is you've got a monster leading the caravan, and that monster is the thing that is fighting each of the fights. And within that caravan can hold the people inside of that caravan, in which you either have, you could have a warrior, you could have a mage, you could have a healer. And the way that turns go is your monster will attack, and then whoever's next in line in the caravan, in the wagon specifically, will get a turn. So, if you've got a warrior, if the way you've got things is like warrior, mage, priest, nothing, then it'll be monster attacks, warrior attacks, enemy attacks, monster, mage, enemy, monster, priest, enemy, monster, wagon gets reorganized, enemy, monster, warrior. So it'll just cycle like that. However, who you can have in your wagon depends on the quote-unquote weight. So each monster has an individual weight, and each person has an individual weight. The wagon can only hold, once you've fully upgraded it, up to a weight of 10. So if you've got a monster that weighs like 6, you can only have a weight of 4 for a person, which is usually like a warrior or something. Or you could have like 2 mages or whatever. But you do eventually get upgrades in the terms of 2 more wagons, so you eventually have that full team of 3 that you could always have. And then you can just figure out how you want things to go from there with, who you have. As you go through the game, you recruit new people. You find mappers, you find monster tamers. It's just quite interesting. Basically, you go through and do things. So instead of having a ton of monsters to breed, you only have your 3 monsters in the caravan system. But instead of breeding 2 monsters together, you are breeding monster hearts. Basically, you cut a heart out of the monster and you throw it into a pot and a new monster comes out. So that's your breeding, and you use that on your monsters to change them, make them stronger, better. But so it's really weird because it's incredibly different from anything I'd ever seen before with Dragon Monsters, because I played, Dragon Warrior Monsters 1, Dragon Warrior Monsters 2, as well as, is it Dragon Quest Monsters Joker and Dragon Quest Monsters Joker 2. This was a completely different setup for it. I found it very challenging, but it was fresh. It was different. It was fun. What do I want to replay it? No. It was good to play once, and I enjoyed playing it. It was just frustrating for me. Yes, emotive. It was funky fresh. It was frustrating. It was different. It was new. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. So I think it's good for someone to play, just to play everything in the series, but it's not something that I personally want to play again. Alright, moving on to the DS, Dragon Quest Monsters Joker. Let's see. Came out in 2007 in North America. So, Joker introduces several new things. For one, starting from Joker on, you do not have random encounters. All the enemies are spawned in on the world map. You can see them. You can avoid them. Simple as that. In this case, you are the son of a scientist, and you are being punished for disobeying him, yada yada. So you start the game in a jail. He lets you out. He's like, oh, so you want to be a what are they called? You want to be a scout. So you are scouting monsters instead of recruiting monsters. So to do that, you need a scout ring. And your dad's like, you know what? You really want to do this? Fine. You're working for me. I have jobs for you to do while you play your little game. But he allows you to go and join the scout tournament, in which you need to do objectives. And then the top 5 people who finish the objectives first fight out in a no bars held, fight all 5 in a row, or well, the other 4 in a row and win all 4, and you win. So that's kind of the story, You go through the game, scouting monsters, breeding monsters, getting that powerful team, traveling each of the different islands, doing the tasks for your dad, doing the tasks for the tournament. Towards the end, once you, have 100% completed the tournament, you'll have a very good, strong team. There's also a special monster with you, because, of course there is. It's like, oh, there's this monster that needs help doing something, so, you go around helping it, yada yada. Then you realize something nefarious was going on behind the scenes. At the middle of the tournament, obviously you win the tournament. Because you have to, it's a game. But something happens to that monster and he turns evil. Now you have to go rescue him, yada yada. You travel to one last dungeon, and you save the world, essentially. Let's see. Yeah, that's basically it for Joker. It was in this game that they implemented a new breeding thing that I enjoyed, which was back in the original game, if you try to breed two monsters together, it'd be like, oh, you've never bred this monster before. I wonder who it will be, or this monster will be this. Is that okay? And that's it, In this game, if you put two monsters together to breed, you'll have three options. One of those options is one of the original monsters, just better, and then two other monsters you could become. So it gives you a little bit more options to pick from, which I kind of like. It's a nice addition. But yeah, a couple of fun facts. 3 monsters in this game that you can get. One is Imperia, which we have not seen in Dragon Quest VIII. One is Leopold, the dog, which you guys know. And of course, the last is King Trode. You can get King Trode as a monster in this game. Moving on to Dragon Quest Monsters 2. The Land of the Giant Enemies. This game came out in 2011 in North America. So, what really changed about this game is the fact that you could have varying sizes of monsters. As in, you could have a regular size monster, you could have a 2-size monster, or a 3-size monster. Your party can only hold up to 3 monsters. That's 3 regular size monsters. So if you have a 2-size monster, you can have that plus a regular size monster, or a 3-size monster. This is where I really started disliking it, because really the strong monsters are the 2 to 3 size monsters, and you can't build a team based around those anymore. So they really cut back on what you could have in your party. Really limited you, in my opinion. I mean, yeah, if depending on how you do it, you'll have a very good, strong team. But at the same time, I'm just like, I'm not getting what I want. So this is where I started getting frustrating with Dragon Quest Monsters. Anyway, story of this is you want to go participate in a scouters tournament, similar to the first game. So you hitch a ride on an airship traveling there. You get caught, you're turned into the swab deck for the rest of the tourney, or for the rest of the journey, to pay your fares, because, you're poor, you can't afford a ticket, yada yada. However, unfortunately, something happens to your ship and you crash land on a mysterious island. Woo! Basically, the ship's broken, everybody is missing. Your job is to find repair parts for the ship and to find all the crew members. So you start traveling around, exploring this brand new island of giants. So instead of having like a boss of the region, there's a boss monster that's gigantic sized. They have to fight. It's really interesting. They really let the 3DS capabilities move forward in this because 3DS, the DS, not 3DS. They let the DS capabilities because it's like they could really use the giant monsters. You could see top, bottom screen. They did a lot visually, and it was really nice because you could just, do so much with it. They actually released a second version of this game called Dragon Quest Monsters Joker 2 Professional Version. It's a revamped version. It's only out in Japan. There is an English patch, though, and they added hundreds of new monsters. And which they add even more enemies from past games. Yeah, hundreds. Because if you think about it, you've got all the monsters from Dragon Quest 1 through 11. There are hundreds of monsters, boss monsters, all of those. I'll probably see if I can't get my hands on a copy of the English translation of Professional whenever we play 2. Hundreds. Thousands? Yes. I mean, there's probably close to 1,000 by the end with Joker 3 Professional. But, I mean, they just like to give you a ton of different options. And that's what they do their best. Give you no blastastics, not millions. But they just like to give you a bunch of different options to play. Now, that was the last Monsters game that they released in the West. Everything else... Actually, hold on. Let's see. Yeah, everything else is released only in Japan. Unfortunate. Because I can't read Japanese. But it's not the worst. Because there are still occasional English translations. So we're going to get to the new one. Rip Mankeys, you are here. Towards the end. But let's cover Terry's Wonderland 3D. Came out in 2012. It is a remake of the first Dragon Quest Monsters game on the 3DS. Basically, nothing's the same. You still go down different traveler's gates like in the first one to a randomized dungeon. Except for the dungeons, obviously, in 3D, there are no... Oh, that's a shame, Blast. You can't read it, but you can kind of speak the language. You just need to relearn it. I mean, there's so many things, especially with video games available and JRPGs that aren't in the West, that, being able to read Japanese would be super helpful. But, anyway, Terry's Wonderland 3D. Revamp of Dragon Warrior Monsters. And there are a total of 609 monsters total. You can have a total of 4 monsters in your party, though. And you've got a 3D world total as you try to figure out who captured your sister Millie. Malayo. But the really nice thing about, I guess, all the games is there has been post-content to do, like collect all the monsters, maybe a couple extra worlds to explore, but Terry's Wonderland 3D actually has post-game content with actual new missions, monsters, and things to do and explore. So that was a nice surprise and something fresh and brand new for myself. But I do look forward to playing 3D Wonderland and recording it for stream soon. Oh God, I'm so tired. But that will be coming up in the future. Next up is Dragon Quest Monsters 2, Iru and Luca's Marvelous Mystery Key, which is a remake of Dragon Warrior Monsters 2, Kobe and Terra's story. But, this one does not have an English mod, unfortunately. It's being worked on, but it's been worked on since 2014 when it came out in Japan. So I'm not too familiar with this game. Let's see. That's interesting. So they introduced a new super G-sized monster to this game. I don't really know what that means. But there's a new breeding system called the Montner system, which is a monster plus partner. Montner. It lets you mix and combine 4 different parts to make an original monster. Interesting. Let's see. You can change cosmetics. You can crouch. You can whistle to get new monsters. You can dance. You can forge weapons. Oh yeah, that's another thing they introduced in Joker moving forward. You can give your monsters weapons to enhance their attack power and yada yada. You kind of do need to understand a JRPG so you know where you're being told to go. Right. Because especially with number 2, it's like, you need to go do this. Or, hey, you just got this ability. Or, hey, you need to go find this key. But yeah. That's mostly what I know about this game. I've been keeping an eye on the English translation mod for the last couple of years, but it's made no progress. Their suggestion is, you should learn Japanese. That might be a bit faster. I'm like, oof. Alright, let's move on to the Android iOS console game that Square Enix released in 2014 in Japan. I know next to nothing. This is called Dragon Quest Monsters Super Light. It's on your phone. I don't know if there's an English mod whatsoever for this. And I know nothing about it. Basically, you're dungeon crawling, monster fighting, and buying things in the store. Basically, you're still recruiting monsters into your team to use them to fight. You can buy new maps to explore new dungeons. But this has a stamina system similar to most phone games where you can only do so much until you run out of stamina. So I guess it's the DQM version of Dragon Quest, what's it called? Dragon Quest Star... I don't remember what the Dragon Quest version of it, and not the Monsters version. But yeah, this came out in 2014. Don't know if it's still operating or anything, but... I mean, the screenshots I've seen of it look kind of cool. But whatever. And then the last game in this series. We have not had an update since this. And obviously it's only in Japan. Dragon Quest Monsters Joker 3 and Joker 3 Professional. 3 came out in 2016. Professional came out in 2017. Basically, in this one, you wake up with no memories of who you are. There's so many versions of everything, Blast. Let's be completely honest. You wake up with no memories of who you are. You just have a mysterious device. And you start traveling, and then you realize that something happened to the world. The world has split apart. Humans are nearing extinction. And you need to figure out what to do. So, same as before, you start collecting your monsters, training them up. I can't remember if you only get 3 or 4 monsters in this game. I was never able to beat this game. I'm going to retry when I do it on stream. But towards the end, the bosses just got so brutal, you needed basically a perfect team. They definitely made the Joker and Joker 2 experience better. They refined it quite a bit. And really, they just kind of made the game more enjoyable with new features, new things you can do. You can ride your monsters. You actually have to ride your monsters for certain things. You can fly through the air with your monsters. You can swim underwater. You can cross water. You can cross lava, but only if you're riding those monsters. It's just they took an old system and made it better, which is nice. But that's the entire series in a nutshell. We're all waiting to see if they're going to release another Dragon Quest Monsters, especially in the West. What with how popular Dragon Quest XI was when it came out last year or 2 years ago. So there's a lot of hope coming forward on what's going to happen with it. But yeah, that was kind of my just kind of blurb and word vomit of Dragon Quest Monsters as a whole in the series. I know Banky's and Emotive watched some of the episodes, but does anybody have any questions on the series? Is the first game my favorite for the nostalgia value or the actual gameplay? It's a mix of both. As I said earlier, every year my family would go on vacation and I'd just be glued to my Game Boy playing it. And I never actually was able to beat it until recently. But the actual gameplay, like, I can change up my style, and I have in small bits, mostly because I don't remember how to breed certain monsters to get the best monsters. So there's a lot of replayability in the fact that you'll have different teams a lot of the time. So that really just kind of opens it up. Plus, with the open world, with the randomized dungeons, it doesn't get stale for me. Let's see. Do I prefer Dragon Quest Monsters or Dragon Quest in general? That is a tough one because obviously they're still releasing Dragon Quest, but Monsters has not really had a Western update in years. But I personally prefer Monsters. I think you just have so many more options on how to build a team than you do in DQ. Because in DQ, you've got your parties, and then you can be, just a set amount of classes. In Monsters, you can have a slime, you can have a dragon, and you can have a boss era monster, and just depending on how you breed, you got different skills. You could have yourself the mage, priest, warrior, all mixed into one monster, instead of having a warrior, a priest, and a mage who specialize in their own areas, who have their own weaknesses. Instead, you can kind of overcome your own weaknesses by how you breed. So I think it gives you a lot more flexibility and freedom. Let's see. Is there a favorite monster that comes to mind? There's always the classic slime. I love the classic slime. He's cute. He's adorable. So I would have to say that slime would be my favorite. He's standard across the he's standard across all the games. You will always have a slime. Let's see. Do you wish Monsters had gotten as popular as Pokemon? Do you think it would have gotten more popular if more people knew about it? Yes and no. Do I wish it was as popular as Pokemon? I do wish it was more popular because we'd get more Western adaptations, as well as we would be getting more games in general. But at the same time, the more popular it is, the more pressed for time they get, and then the more they have to adopt a system of similar to Pokemon. Here's what you do. Copy and paste. New graphics, new monsters. It's I like the fact that they're all unique. All the stories are different. What you have to do is different. They introduced new mechanics in each one. Pokemon, the first time they introduced new mechanics, really, was Sun and Moon. But they introduced new mechanics and then they toss them just as quick. Granted, they have done the same thing with Dragon Quest Monsters 2, with the fact that you got new abilities to allow you to cross water, fly in certain areas, yada yada. But I do think it would have gotten more popular if more people knew about it. So Dragon Quest is a huge series, but a lot of people just never picked up Monsters, because when it comes to any kind of a spin-off game of a main series, people are like, oh, it sucks, or it'll never be as good, so they just kind of dismiss it, and they never touch it. So I think if it had gotten more popular, if people had actually known about the game. Sun and Moon, I didn't enjoy a whole lot. I am looking forward to a randomized playthrough of it, though. But, yeah. Anybody else have any more questions for me before I just wrap it up for today? We've hit our 46th minute, which, again, I'm surprised I managed to talk so long. I was worried I wouldn't have enough stuff to talk about for this. Does not look like we have any more questions for today. Oh, I did not see that. If there was a new Monsters game, is there anything you would want to see different gameplay or monsters or anything really? Let's see. One thing I would like them to do is to revert the changes, with the supersized monsters, and move them back to normal-sized monsters. I really enjoyed the whole aspect of being able to build a 3-person team, because what they really changed was any monster that really had a high attack power became a 2-size monster, which means you had to eat up 2 of your spaces. And of course, to compensate, they made them a little bit more powerful. They gave them a bit more health. They allowed them to attack multiple times in a single turn. I'm like, I just felt like they were ruining it by doing it that way. I thought it was much better off when they left it as it was, with the whole, you got your one monster, they get their attack, and that's it. They didn't need to do extra. I didn't really want anything to be changed or added like that at all. Monsters, I'd like to see them continue to add new monsters from the Dragon Quest series. But really, I just want something new. I want a new adventure to go on in the Monsters universe, where you're a monster master, you're a master tamer. You get those monsters to fight for you. That's what I personally would like to see. So, alright, I think, scrolling up, that looks like I hit all of the questions. I think we'll wrap this up right here. And we will have to figure out what next week's podcast is. I can't tell you what it will be because I haven't decided. Oh, yes, I do know what it will be. We will be discussing the Final Fantasy VII Remastered that I am getting on Thursday or Friday. So, thank you everybody for watching if you're on Twitch. Thank you everybody for watching if you see this on YouTube. Thank you everybody who watched this on Spotify or SoundCloud or anywhere else. I completely forgot to plug at the very beginning, but my Twitch is twitch.tv/DJ_funky_fresh. My YouTube is youtube.com/DJ funkyfreshgaming. And I hope to continue to build my community, just to give people a place to go to play games, meet new people, and all of that. So, yes. Thank you everybody for watching. And thank you everybody for listening. I hope you all enjoyed. And until the next time, everybody. Stay funky, people.